What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, on this snowy New York day, a photo that has surfaced continues to get sent to me, and people continue to say, "Hey, Blue, look at this photo. Since you said former unified three-belt WBA, WBC, IBF welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, who at one point in time was top 5 pound-for-pound best fighters in the world. I still think he's top 12 pound-for-pound best fighters in the world. Superstar boxer, Errol the Truth Spence Jr., who is 28 wins, 1 loss, no draw, 22 wins by way of knockout. He is 33 years of age, 5'9" with a 72-inch arm reach. Here's why the sport of boxing continues to stay stuck in quicksand when it comes to comparisons with other major sports like the NFL, National Football League, NBA, National Basketball Association, NHL, National Hockey League, MLB, Major League Baseball. And then you even have what was considered at one point in time semi-pro sports in NCAA football and basketball. Now they get paid. But with that said, it continued to resurface. These conversations, they get recycled because fans in the sport of boxing aren't truth tellers. What they are in the sport of boxing are fans of their favorite fighters because what their favorite fighter represents, not actually what their favorite fighter does in the ring. So, with that said, I continue to get all of these messages that people are saying, bro, you switched up on the truth, Errol the Truth Spence Jr. I did not. Here's the thing. A new photo surfaced of Errol Spence out shopping in the supermarket, out and about, and he has a patch over his eye, clearly, and he has shades on, right? And he's out and about, and this photo is taken. And people keep sending me the photos. See? He didn't lie. He had surgery on his eye. I never said he didn't have surgery on his eye. I never said he didn't have an injury to his eye. I never said he didn't have the cataracts. But paying attention is actually free. It's the most free, expensive thing in the world. But I said, I believe Errol Spence had this eye injury. I believe Errol Spence had a broken rib. I believe Errol Spence was struggling to make 147. I believe Errol Spence felt weight drain. I believe all of the above. I simply said that he should have never let it come out because ahead of his highly anticipated July 29th, Las Vegas, Nevada, T-Mobile Arena, mega undefeated, undisputed welterweight showdown between himself and his biggest rival, his biggest nemesis, now undefeated 3-division world champion, 2-division undisputed world champion, and the reigning unified welterweight world champion, who is widely acknowledged and recognized as the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terrence Bud Crawford. Terrence Bud Crawford is 40 wins, no losses, no draws, 31 big wins by way of knockout. He is 36 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, they fought. This was a fight. Again, I can't bang on this door and bang this drum. Enough. Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford was one of the biggest fights, most anticipated fights in the last decade. It was seen on paper to be a 50-50 fight if there ever were one in the sport of boxing. If you ever had a 50-50 fight in the sport of boxing, this was it. You had 2 top 5 pound-for-pound best fighters in the world. You had 2 guys that were undefeated. You had 2 guys that are highly decorated in the sport of boxing. Errol Spence was unifying the belts against any and everybody in the welterweight division. The last man standing for Errol Spence was Terrence Bud Crawford. He took the straps off of all the champions. Terrence Crawford was already a 3-division champion. He was already undisputed. They both were highly decorated. They both were undefeated. They both were stopping people brutally. What more can you say? What more can you ask for? This was a 50-50 fight on paper. And the fight didn't turn out to be competitive. It turned out to be one-sided. The event, that lived up to the billing. The fight itself didn't. Errol Spence got dominated in the fight. He got dropped in the second round, twice in the seventh round, then stopped in the ninth round. Then he got battered in those rounds in between. He got battered in the second half of the third round, which I thought he won the first half of the third round. The fourth, fifth, and sixth round. The seventh round, clearly. The eighth round, people thought it should have been stopped in the sixth and the seventh round. Then he got stopped in the ninth. It just wasn't competitive, right? And so with that said, Errol Spence came out and he said I had essentially a broken rib. He confirmed what many people, such as myself, we knew this behind the scenes, that Errol Spence was suffering from a rib injury. He comes out and he confirms that. He had to get shots in his ribs. He couldn't spar, which means he couldn't prepare properly a month out from the fight, okay? Then he had the eye injury. He had cataracts, which was hindering his vision, so he couldn't see to do what he needed to do in the fight. Hence the reason he stated, I couldn't see the hooks and the jabs, right? And then we already knew that he was struggling with the weight because he stated immediately after the fight in the ring that he wanted to have the rematch immediately in December at 154, right? Because 147 is just a hindrance to him, right? But now he stated that he knew he had this hindrance to his eye that was preventing him it was handicapping him. He couldn't see out his eye for 3 years. But he didn't get it corrected going into the biggest fight of his career. So you're going into the biggest fight of your career. You're going into a fight with Terrence Crawford, who has knocked out and stopped his last 7 opponents. He is undefeated. He's been considered the best fighter in the world since 2017, 2018, when Andre Ward retired. Okay? He's a 3-division champion. Terrence Crawford stopped everybody at welterweight. Then you date back to his fight with Julius Indongo before he came to welterweight. He stopped him and knocked him out in like the second round. Okay, so he right now, currently as it stands, Terrence Crawford has stopped 9 straight opponents. 9. Okay, and so with that said, you going into the biggest fight of your career with all of these handicaps and actually think you're going to be successful, you either gave your opponent no credit at all, or your ability to perform with all these injuries too much credit, right? So my issue is, if you knew that you had all of these things hampering you, preventing you from being and preparing to the best of your ability for the biggest fight of your career and the best fighter in the world, and yet you went into the fight anyway, you have to just live with the consequences and the outcome. And the world should not be privy to this information unless it's coming from people like myself. You should never confirm those things because it takes away from him. So I never said that Errol Spence didn't have the eye injury. Now I have a question. Shakur Stevenson, Olympic silver medalist, 3-division world champion, former unified WBC, WBO super featherweight world champion, now reigning WBC lightweight world champion, superstar boxer. Shakur Stevenson is 21 wins, no losses, no draw, 10 wins by way of knockout, 26 years of age, 5'8" with a 68-inch arm reach, slick southpaw, aggressive, right? Shakur Stevenson. Now get this, Errol Spence key to victory is his high work rate, his fundamentals, and his pressure style, which physically breaks down his opponents, right? Shakur Stevenson is an accurate, pinpoint, sharp shooting fighter who is a southpaw, whose left hand is his biggest attribute, right? Errol Spence was hindered. The weight cut hindered his output. The rib injury prevented him from sparring and properly preparing, right? So he couldn't absorb punches. His durability is a big factor in who he is and his success. And his eye, he couldn't see, so he couldn't get away from the jabs. Shakur Stevenson, November 16th, Las Vegas, Nevada, T-Mobile Arena. Same arena. Took on not the biggest fight of his career, but a nice step up against Dominican lightweight star title contender Edwin De Los Santos, who's now 16 wins, 2 losses, no draws. 14 wins by way of knockout, 24 years of age, 5'8", with a 70-inch arm reach. Who's a southpaw, who's explosive, who's aggressive. Shakur Stevenson has never been a knockout artist. He's an accurate, defensive, slick, southpaw, counterpunch boxer. That's always been his game. Hence, he only has 10 knockouts in 21 fights. Shakur Stevenson secured the victory and told the world going into the fight, as we see it revealed, when he told his significant other he didn't feel well and probably going to use his legs to get the victory, but if he needed to dig deep, he would. He didn't need to. But he couldn't throw his left hand. It was hampered. It was injured. Yet the world condemned Shakur Stevenson for his performance in victory. He won a unanimous decision. Shakur Stevenson landed a total of 65 punches. 46 came by way of jab, right? And everybody hindered Shakur Stevenson. Edwin De Los Santos landed a total of 40 punches and was completely healthy. So he couldn't catch up to Shakur Stevenson, who was in front of him. He was just maneuvering, but he wasn't just running around the ring, right? Shakur Stevenson told us he wasn't feeling good. When he revealed the messages that he wasn't feeling good going into the fight, we condemned Shakur Stevenson. Well, if you knew that you wasn't feeling well going into the fight, then you should have pulled out. If you knew that you wasn't feeling well going into the fight, you shouldn't have been telling the world what you was going to do to Edwin De Los Santos. We see the hand of Shakur Stevenson, as I showed you guys, right? His hand is completely swollen. Looks like his right middle finger knuckle on his left hand, his key hand to victory, is broken, right? You look at his hand. Look at his hand. This is before the fight. Shakur Stevenson is actually hugging somebody in the locker room. And that's, I cropped it out. This is the rest of his body. This is his hand giving somebody a hug. He couldn't close his hand, and he just patted him on the back. This is before the fight in the locker room. We don't give Shakur Stevenson a pass. Because we said, well, you knew your hand was hurt before you went in the fight. You shouldn't have told the world what you was going to do to Edwin De Los Santos. But as my memory serves me correctly, Errol Spence told the world he was going to dog walk and stop Terrence Crawford before the fight. And he knew he couldn't see out his eye. He knew he had a broken rib. He knew he could not train a month before the fight. He knew he wasn't properly prepared for the biggest fight of his career and the best fighter in the world. Shakur Stevenson was preparing for a step-up fight, a vacant WBC title on the line, a belt was on the line, but Undisputed was on the line for Errol Spence. For Shakur Stevenson, he was picking up a belt in the 3rd weight class against a guy who already had a loss. It wasn't the biggest fight of his career. Now, imagine this. Imagine Shakur Stevenson, and he got the victory. So he did what he needed to do to get the victory, but we condemn him for doing what he needed to do to get the victory. But imagine Shakur Stevenson going into the Gervonta Tank Davis fight, has the same performance, and then say his hand was injured. Gervonta Tank Davis gets the nod. He says his hand was injured and he was sick going into the fight. You would say that Shakur Stevenson is making up excuses. This is why, again, like I said, I have zero doubt that Errol Spence had all of these injuries and all of these hang-ups. I have no doubt. My only thing is that if you chose to go into the fight still, then you have to deal with the consequences. For every action is a reaction, and the world should not know about it. You chose that path. You chose to go into the fight in the biggest fight of your career against the best fight in the world with all of these crutches. And the outcome is the outcome. The world was on a need-to-know basis. Whether the media, like myself, were privy to this information behind the scenes, absolutely. But he should have never confirmed it. Because, see, we pick and choose when we want it confirmed. When Shakur Stevenson confirms that he had a hand injury, which is his left hand, his dominant hand. Now, he's actually naturally a right hand, but in boxing, he uses his left hand as his biggest attribute, biggest key. And his legs, and he wasn't feeling well, then we condemned him for his performance. But we didn't condemn Errol Spence for his performance. He didn't have a great performance. It's just that he was able to sustain the punishment that Terrence Crawford was dishing out for 9 rounds. That's not a good performance. So make it make sense. But again, like I said, every fighter in boxing goes into a fight and they're not feeling well. Period. They all have some sort of injuries going into the fight. None of them are 100% healthy going into a fight. But we only hear about it and it's only highlighted when they lose. Come on. Again, like I said, I never said Errol Spence didn't have these injuries. I never said he lied. I said he shouldn't have confirmed it publicly to the people, especially when you already have the rematch set in stone and you're going to get an opportunity to rectify your decisions in the last fight. You're going to be able to correct them going forward. Period. And that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. So all I got for y'all. I'm gone. Peace.